a week or two ago, a channel I'm subbed to called Liberal Hive Mind. He posted something, and that channel is where mindless Trump conservative right-wing drones go to be fed the false gospel of how pure their party is, and if they could only get rid of them Democrats, they could go back to the pure and wholesome traditional values of America. You know, one of those channels. I'm subbed to channels like that, a couple of them, because I like to keep my eyes and ears on certain kinds of people, even though I don't like them. But here's what I've seen over there.
Okay, I've got to rant for a minute. Just when I thought school couldn't get any weirder, it did today. I'm a sub, and the most important thing we do is take rolls so the school gets paid. So I'm looking at the seating chart as I'm going up and down the rows and marking who's here and who's not. I get to the third row and I hear this, meow! Excuse me? Excuse me? I start looking on the ground. Go to the fourth row, everything's good. Go to the fifth row, everybody's there. Then I hear, meow! I'm like, okay, what's up with that? Who's doing it? And this little girl in the very front row says, you have to meow back at him. He identifies as a cat. Are you kidding me? I said, is there a litter box in here somewhere? My sarcasm self probably shouldn't have said that. He gets up and he storms out of the classroom. And I'm like, rough. And of course, the entire class is laughing. And I think, no problem, no foul. I go to the office. You ready for this? To check out. They said, we no longer need your services if you can't identify with all the children in the classroom.
I thought that was fake. I thought it was staged by people who might just be looking to poke fun and mock the woke crowd, but turned out to be legit. Refused to meow back at a kid in her class who identifies as a cat and loses her job. And in my search, I found, not only did I find out it was fake, when I was looking to see if it was fake, I saw that in several schools, they've put litter boxes in bathrooms for other children that identify as cats. And I started off with this. I brought this up to describe how wide the spectrum of devilishment is going on. This is not just statues and cartoons. The kids are being seized as well. This dude here, to my knowledge, no one ever found out the identity of this dude. But if it was found out, it was kept secret. You know, because when it happened, the crowd grabbed this dude and hurried him off somewhere, likely because they knew what the cops would do to him if they caught him. But no one knows his name, so the public named him Tank Man. And it had to take the balls the size of grapefruits to do this. But this was the scene from Tiananmen Square in 1989. But these days, though,
it is part of an effort, some have said, to erase public memory. Early Thursday morning, crews worked behind barriers, watched by guards, dismantling a monument. The Danish sculptor who created the work says he was shocked.
In the middle of the night, 12 o'clock in Hong Kong, just one day before Christmas evening, I think it's a really brutal way to do this kind of thing. A really, really brutal way.
From video that was shot, it appears the monument was cut apart, packed up in pieces, and then put in a container. The spot where it stood for 24 years is now empty. This man says the government is trying to wipe out history. People, he says, have to fight against forgetting. It was called the Pillar of Shame, an 8-meter-tall sculpture depicting twisted and pained bodies representing the victims of the Tiananmen massacre. In 1989, Chinese troops broke up demonstrations in Beijing calling for greater political freedoms. The government would say 200 civilians were killed. Others have said the number was closer to 10,000.
Now, I've talked over and over again about how leery people should be about the removal of these Confederate statues. But not just leery, but worried, because historically the removal of monuments and other things are signs of the ushering in of a new regime that has always turned out to be worse than the one that just got replaced. But listen, I care not one bit about a Robert E. Lee or any of the others. But, like it or not, they were rebels against the establishment. And in various places across the world, they are removing all signs of rebellion, like you saw China doing. And most of them are hiding they're hiding this ushering in of this new regime by claiming it's to get rid of signs of racism.
Demonstrators have been demanding justice for the family of Adama Traore, the Frenchman who died in police custody, and an end to racism and brutality from the police. At the same time, the felling of a statue of the slave owner, Edward Colston, in Bristol in the UK last week has really reignited a debate here as well about removing statues of figures linked to colonialism and the slave trade here in France. Well, for France 24, here's Chris Moore.
One of the statues at the centre of the debate here in France is that of Jean-Baptiste Colbert outside the Assemblée Nationale, the lower house of Parliament. He was in charge of finance under Louis XIV, the Sun King, a very proud period in French history, but he was also the architect of the Code Noir, which helped enshrine slavery.
It's a text which is lambasted today, and with good reason. The Code Noir entrenches the power of masters over slaves and treats the slave as an object. Colbert bears that burden. But he's more than that. In a way, he's also the creator of the modern state.
On the face of it, I agree it should come down, but the statues are part of our history. It's important not to hide what he did during his life, so why not have a plaque explaining it all?
We don't commemorate Hitler. Why should we commemorate somebody who actively participated in slavery and the slave trade?
The statue at the University of Cape Town, one of Africa's top academic institutions, has been covered up for the past few weeks as both white and black students regularly marched past with the hashtag #RhodsMustFall placards calling for its removal. They believe it's a symbol of the racism against blacks that prevails in South Africa 2 decades after the end of oppressive white minority rule.
I think that the youth of tomorrow will say that the year wasn't 1994, but the year was 2015 when transformation actually began. 1994 was completely important for getting us to where we are today, and 2015 wouldn't have happened without 94, but 2015, I think this is about to spawn more and more conversations around transformation and the physical removal of symbols.
Splattered with graffiti, it was hoisted by crane onto a truck from its tall granite plinth overlooking a rugby pitch as thousands of watching students cheered.
That was South Africa and France. And again, I don't need for people to think that I'm speaking about this because I care about these people, right? I don't care. I'm just showing how this looks to be in sync with the rest of the world, how it's, how it's happening in different places. So I don't care about a Robert E. Lee, or nor do I believe that Christopher Columbus was this great guy who only wanted the best for the people who he came into contact with.
For indigenous peoples across the Americas, commemorations of Christopher Columbus and his so-called discovery of their lands have always been seen as a celebration of Spanish conquest. With this year's anniversary of the explorer's arrival in the Americas, activists in Bolivia decided that this statue of Spain's Queen Isabella, a sponsor of his expeditions, needed a change.
By putting a skirt on Isabella, we show that her icon as Andean women is a woman in a skirt, to recognize that colonization was a genocide. There was no need to discover America. America already had established societies.
In Mexico City ahead of Columbus Day, authorities removed a bronze statue that had been in place for decades and fenced off another to keep protesters away.
Desde hace tiempo It's a good time, particularly today, to open the debate on histories, settlers, of what this day really means or what it means for America. There's a meeting of cultures, but there was not necessarily a discovery.
Government officials say the statue has been removed for restoration, but many hope it won't be returned.
It's happening in various places all over the world, and the people pulling the strings are up to no good. And some of the protesters, no doubt in my mind that they're just people. They're people who just genuinely believe that they're involved in the right thing. Like when I was talking about the climate change stuff, and those people, the college people who put in all that good work eventually found out that they were actually working for the devil himself.
No, there's supposed to be a climate change rally.
Michigan State University students, inspired by 350.org, were holding a rally for the clean energy future they'd been promised.
The goal is to get the whole world moving beyond fossil fuels.
He wants to do a 350 sign on the steps of the...
But it turned out Michigan State had a form of green energy in mind the students did not support.
The university contracted with a energy contracting company. They put together like a modeling tool. First 2 or 3 months that the steering committee was using this modeling tool, it didn't even contain data for wind or solar. So there was...
Adam told me they were planning on substituting coal burning with biomass burning.
The permit that is currently being considered by the state is a permit for 24,000 tons of biomass per year. And the plan is to do that in all four boilers. Unfortunately, the steering committee considers biomass renewable at the moment, which we're not happy with.
But let me show you how broad this devilishment is. And we're in trouble. We're in trouble here. And it's people's reaction to it, just like the idea that, oh, this is just to get rid of racism. We're going to take these statues down to get rid of signs of colonialism. Look.
Let's talk about something a little less grim. Minnie Mouse, for example, the Disney character has got a makeover. She has a new dress, a new bow, new pumps, and she looks very different. Celebrated English designer Stella McCartney has dressed the mouse. Disney thinks the new Minnie looks gorgeous. Many disagree. They say the new Minnie does not remind them of the mouse they grew up with. Here's a report.
Minnie Mouse has got a makeover. This is how she looks right now. Couldn't recognize her, could you? New clothes, a new bow, and a new color combination. Minnie still wears her signature polka dots, but now they are on a designer pantsuit. It's deep blue in color and looks a little dull, to be honest. Seriously, who did this to Minnie?
People's reaction to it. I've been seeing people and hearing people, and I see people like, oh, what's the big deal? It's just a cartoon, a fictional character, so why do you care? That's been the reaction to the Minnie Mouse thing. Refusing to see that it's not just a cartoon. It's a move against the reality of there even being a such thing as male and female. And some of these statues, I don't doubt, will be replaced with homosexuals. And some of them were homosexuals anyway. But the replacements are going to be out of the closet kind. Like they're doing with the DC and Marvel comic characters. So, whoever or whatever is pulling the strings around the globe are pretty much looking to capture all areas of activity. And not just activity, even capture our very being. Like even what's male or female. Food, everything they're putting hands on. So I don't want nobody thinking that I'm here to care about statues and cartoons. I just wanted to make sure that people have an appropriate perception as far as depth, and not just think that it's just this or that, but rather see it as everything and everywhere is being seized.
How's my hair? Damn, we're in a tight spot.